The first stage will begin as early as September 2nd, when the first people on the list will start to leave. Check for these signs to see if you have them. Then in October, November, the second wave will begin. When you open the news, it feels like the world has gone crazy. This is not happening for no reason. 3 days ago, during a channeling session with representatives of other civilizations, I received important information. For some time now, our planet has been going through a transition. This is a truly global phenomenon that occurs approximately once every 26,000 years, specifically when the sun emits additional powerful energy. In fact, this is an even more global process than I previously thought, because this energy is released not only by the sun, but the overall energetic background of our galaxy is changing, and humanity will go through a process of separation. And already on September 2nd, something irreversible will happen, after which this process will become much, much more intense.
And who sent this information? Why was it sent?
In reality, we are not alone on this planet. There are other, more advanced civilizations that have been watching over us for many millennia. In ancient times, they were called gods. For example, the gods of Egypt, the gods of ancient Greece, and other pantheons are representatives of other civilizations. Later, people moved on to other religions, stopped communicating with the gods, and there were no more priests. But now, this role has been taken on by channelers, who receive messages from other civilizations. Mostly, these messages are addressed to ancient souls, those who also came here from other civilizations to help people. And first and foremost, it is the channelers whom the civilizations are concerned about. A message is being conveyed that soon there will be a window when everyone who wishes can return to their own worlds. There are also many mysteries on our planet, and there are places where you can come into contact with portals and partially see or feel these parallel realities. I have been to such places several times and have seen other, let's say, cities in other dimensions, with which you can also make contact if you possess superpowers and channeling abilities. And all of this is becoming more and more apparent because in the new energies, the boundaries between worlds are dissolving, and it is becoming easier and easier to receive such messages. On September 2nd, the great separation will occur. This is something that has been in preparation for a long time. And finally, this process will become irreversible precisely on September 2nd. And in our civilization, there have already been many times with symptoms similar to what we are experiencing now. What are we seeing now? There are major climate changes happening, many natural anomalies, conflicts all over the world, and social tension. And when you open the news, it feels like the world has gone mad. This is not random, and it has happened before. There have been epidemics, there have been wars, there have been periods of tension, and usually this kind of chaos builds up for a while, and after that, the world changes dramatically. For example, if you compare the Middle Ages, what society and the world were like then, to, say, the 20th century, these are two completely different worlds. The same thing will happen now, and it's hard for people to imagine just how radically the world will change this time, because this division will be different, not based on economics or origin, as it was before. This time the division will occur according to the soul's vibrational level, and depending on the frequency at which each soul vibrates, that will determine its life and its ability to remain on this planet.
What possible options are there in general? For example, if someone has a low vibration and someone else a high one, or maybe low, medium, and high, how exactly will this happen?
Yes, people have different vibrations, from the very lowest to the very highest. Each soul has a different vibrational level, but it's not static. It depends on the states and emotions that a person experiences. And this can be changed both consciously and unconsciously, either by intentionally raising your vibrations or, on the contrary, lowering them.
What exactly happens to a person who experiences low vibrations then?
A person with low vibrations will eventually be unable to live in this world because the planet's energies are constantly rising, even if it's not very noticeable. That's why many people feel like nothing is happening. However, many people suddenly start getting sick. Many, even relatively healthy people, suddenly die for reasons that are not clear, and this will happen more and more often. Some people suddenly develop depression simply because their vibrations no longer match. And these are just the first echoes. In other words, this will only increase going forward. Most likely, people with low vibrations will not be able to live. I see a high probability that this will be connected to viruses. because when a virus comes, if a person has very low vibrations, their body won't be able to cope. We all remember COVID. There could be even stronger viruses. There could also be viruses to which our immune system is not adapted. And if a person has low vibrations, they have low energy, and they simply won't be able to handle it. The second possibility is that it could happen through some natural anomalies, through sudden climate changes where people won't be able to adapt to abrupt cooling or warming, as well as things like earthquakes and tsunamis, which will definitely continue to occur in the coming years. The separation will occur according to the soul's vibrational level. Whichever vibration the soul resonates with, that's the direction its fate will lean towards. Souls with low vibrations will have very little choice. They will either have to go through a physical transition, that is, die and be reborn, possibly on another planet. Souls with high vibrations will have a choice. And the choice will be, there will be an opportunity to return to their own worlds, to their own planets for some, and for others, to their own parallel worlds that correspond to the vibrations of their soul. And the second option is to stay on the planet, because after all the chaos is over, things here will actually be very good.
Which people are on the list of those with low vibrations? Are there any signs or indicators you can name?
Here's something else I want to say. This process will also happen in waves. In other words, people will be removed in stages. That is, there are those with very low vibrations, then a bit higher and higher still, but all of them are still on the negative side. The very first individuals to be removed will certainly be those who truly vibrate at the profound emotion of hatred. Specifically those who indeed hate life, who deeply hate people for some reason, or who possess an all-encompassing hatred for all people. These are the primary candidates who will unequivocally not be able to remain on the planet any longer. Next are those who vibrate at the emotion of victim. For some reason, in our society, it's considered good to be a victim, that they're poor, unfortunate, and deserve pity. In reality, this is a very low vibration, and they are also second on the list of those who will not be able to stay. Third is the vibration of fear. Not long ago, I was at a very important power spot in Australia, Ayers Rock or Uluru. This is a power spot of the Lemurian civilization. This civilization existed even before the Atlanteans, who lived on this planet. And there, I received a message that people need to realize that they are a part of this world and stop considering themselves separate from the world. Because when people see themselves as separate from the world, they believe the world is dangerous, and they vibrate at the frequency of anxiety and fear. This is also a low vibration. This is number 3 on my list, and it's absolutely necessary to work on this. The first stage will begin as early as September 2nd, when those at the top of the list, those who vibrate with hatred, will start to leave. Then, in October and November, the second wave will begin, and the third wave will come in 2026. By 2027, this process should already be coming to an end.
There should be few people left by then.
Yes, I was shown approximately 40%.
If a person is currently at a very low vibration, is it possible that before September 2nd they could still raise it somehow?
Yes. I have a very good tool for this. It was given to me by representatives of higher civilizations. It's a very interesting, very subtle tool and very effective. At the end of this video, I will guide all our viewers through a practice to help them cleanse themselves of these negative emotions and quickly raise their vibrations. In just 5 minutes, you'll see how quickly this can be done.
Are there things that absolutely must not be done under any circumstances?
Yes, there are. Our entire world, in essence, is a trap. The civilizations I communicate with explain to me that our world was taken over by low vibrational civilizations. I would call them dark. It's a collective thing. There are several different civilizations involved. They lost their own planets due to their destructive actions and managed to infiltrate this planet. So the dark ones created a world full of nothing but traps, making it very difficult for the soul to break free from this simulation. So the first mistake is to take everything presented in the mass media, everything that happens, too seriously. For example, these are the good ones, those are the bad ones. Let's hate these people, those don't have the right values. And these others are the wrong color. In other words, you should never fall for the illusion of separation. The key to breaking free is the awareness of unity. That is, every person, every soul, every particle of nature is whole. So the way out is through wholeness. And separation is an illusion and a big mistake. And when we fall into this mistake, we start to vibrate at the frequency of hatred, which actually puts us at the top of the list for elimination. And this is exactly what you must not do. The second thing you shouldn't do is play the victim. People are taught from childhood to be victims, to be obedient, do everything and wait to be rewarded. That the state or some kind uncle or Santa Claus or a religious god who is also depicted as a kind grandfather, a sort of Santa Claus, gives presents to all the good children who have suffered a lot. But in reality, that's not how it is. In other words, the universe, God loves the strong, loves the brave, those who are true to themselves, those who are not cowards, those who pursue their dreams. And we need to break free from this illusion that it's good and comfortable to be a victim. So that's the second mistake. And the third mistake is living in fear. That is giving in to this pressure, this idea that the world is dangerous. In reality, this world is an illusion, the physical world. The true world is the subtle world. In fact, all souls are immortal. And even if someone dies, they do not disappear. They will continue to live in another form or in another place. So there is no need to be afraid here.
What things lower our vibrations? Like not listening to rock music or not kicking a cat on the street.
That's a good question. By the way, people are often mistaken when they talk about vibrations. Many immediately start talking about products, about food. For example, I hear this from my subscribers. Those who eat meat, for instance, have low vibrations, and those who don't eat meat have high vibrations. To some extent, well, to a small degree, that's true, but in reality, food has a minimal effect on vibrations. Indeed, many people nowadays want to eat less meat and consume more vegetarian food, but food has a very minor effect on vibrations. The most important thing that affects the vibrations of the soul, because we're talking more about the soul's vibrations than the body's, is something else. If we think about how the world is structured, every person has a physical body, a soul, and a spirit. So the spirit is primary, and after that comes the soul in terms of importance. The body is subordinate to the spirit and the soul. That's why it's the vibrations of the soul that have the greatest impact on overall vibrations. And the vibrations of the soul are influenced by emotions. What are we seeing right now? That many people are experiencing negative emotions. And for the most part, these are people who live impulsively. So what is the difference between an impulsive person and a conscious person? An impulsive person, if someone steps on his foot, he gets angry. If something doesn't please him, if he feels he hasn't received what he deserves, he starts demanding, insulting, hating. If he gets scared, he reacts with fear. If he hears some information he doesn't like, he immediately starts writing insults. And such a person, of course, is constantly in a state of negative emotions because the whole world is set up to constantly focus people's attention on the negative. All mass media always focus on the negative. All world religions also always focus on the negative, that you are sinners, that you will end up in hell. And for an impulsive person, it's very difficult to break out of this, let's say, boiling cauldron of negative emotions. A conscious person knows how to choose how to react. For example, if someone offends him, he will still consider whether or not to take offense. Is it worth getting offended, or is it better to choose something else? For instance, he hears something negative or frightening, he thinks about it philosophically and chooses his own attitude toward it. And the more conscious a person is, the less reactive he is, the higher he rises in his vibrations.
Is there any way to prepare, say, first for the second day and so on? So what is the main task for people? Should they go deep into meditation, calm themselves down, or the opposite? I just don't understand what we are supposed to do, what is expected of us.
Simply entering meditation and calming down is not as easy as it sounds, because it's easy to meditate for someone who lives in a monastery and has practiced for many years. But for someone living in the modern world, it's very difficult to do. As soon as such a person tries to enter meditation, anxious thoughts immediately pull them out of that state. You absolutely need to work very consciously and diligently and utilize truly effective tools to thoroughly work through all of your deep-seated traumas. First and foremost, your pervasive anxiety, your profound rejection of this entire world and its people, and for example, your ingrained victim mentality. The best thing you can do right now is to start unlocking your superpowers, because a person who is limited to the 5 senses takes this whole world seriously, perceives it as the only one, and this greatly limits their ability to change their vibrations. When a person opens up their extrasensory perception and begins to sense, see, and communicate with the subtle realm and its inhabitants, it reveals a vast universe and immediately elevates the person's level to an entirely new one. Because then this person becomes aware of their immortality and starts communicating with their guardian angels, their spiritual mentors and teachers. And what happens is an incredibly rapid, exponential spiritual growth. By the way, I was also told that by the year 2030, extrasensory abilities will become the norm on Earth. And those people who don't have them will be considered in a way incomplete.
What tools will be used now to take people away from their current situations?
Well, you don't even need to have any special abilities here, and some of this is already happening. The first is wars, and wars will continue and intensify. The second is viruses. Yes, this always happens. If we even look at history, there have always been epidemics, there have always been wars. And the third is climate-related droughts and floods. Droughts and floods accordingly cause famine. The same thing is going to happen now, more or less. That is, we are already seeing wars. There was a virus, but it wasn't strong enough, so there will be a new virus. The third will be climate change. We are already observing this. For example, the climate is changing dramatically. For instance, in Russia, where it was never hot before, it is becoming very hot. Siberia is getting warmer. And on the other hand, in other countries, there is an unexpected cooling. And third, of course, there will traditionally be earthquakes. Earthquakes will most likely occur in Turkey. And in the USA, there will probably be typhoons and tsunamis. But in Russia, most likely, there will be droughts in its southern and western parts, so to speak.
Are there any particular countries that will be hit the most severely, experiencing the greatest impact?
Actually, it doesn't depend on the country or the location, but on the vibrations of the specific people living there. Of course, those countries where people have higher vibrations, where there are fewer negative emotions, are less at risk. But on the other hand, if a person is on a high vibration, especially if they already possess some extrasensory abilities, if they are connected with higher powers, with their guides, with their guardian angels, they will survive in any country, because such people will be guided, helped, and given hints when it's time to move to another place. By the way, there are signs.
Signs that you're already being called somewhere?
Yes. Right now, a significant number of people are beginning to notice these particular signs. These signs clearly indicate that you are indeed an old soul, that you have abundant support, and that there are powerful forces actively guiding you along your path. And so what exactly are these signs that are appearing? They are signs. What kind of signs? Repeating numbers on the clock. If you constantly see repeating numbers on clocks, on cars, or somewhere else, that's one type of sign. Then, for example, you ask yourself a question or think about something in your head, and then you hear those words somewhere or read them on a sign, or someone comes up and says them to you. That is an answer. Next are sudden coincidences and synchronicities, when events unfold in such a way that it feels like a repeating cycle, as if someone is trying to tell you something. You need to pay attention to this. The next thing is time. That is, your perception of time changes. Sometimes it feels like time disappears somewhere and flies by quickly, and then suddenly it slows down, as if it stretches out. And this is also an indicator that you are ready for the transition. The next sign is waking up at night. If you constantly wake up between 3 and 4 in the morning, this also means that someone is trying to convey something to you. The next sign is unusual dreams. If in your dreams you see vivid symbols, some unusual places you've never been to in your life, or other worlds, it means that your consciousness is already awakening, and perhaps subconsciously you already want to move to some other parallel reality, or more precisely, return home to yourself.
What about those who are already experiencing these signs but don't understand where they're being led, or maybe aren't feeling them at all and need to somehow activate them? I know you have a marathon where you help people for free to kind of feel their own power. How long does it last? It's a few days, right?
Yes, I have a completely free 3-day marathon called How to Unlock Your Psychic Abilities. It's 3 days long, and we do some very powerful practices there. I do comprehensive live diagnostics. I lead thorough cleansing practices, helping individuals to effectively get rid of all unnecessary negativity and truly help them feel their inherent abilities. Everyone who awakens their profound abilities usually has one primary dominant ability. For example, clairsentience or, say, claircognizance. And I help people to truly understand, to fully realize, and to effectively decode these complex and intricate things during the entire marathon event.
The link is below this video. Be sure to check it out. So if they're being taken away, if something like this is happening, like a cleansing or separation, what will happen to poltergeists, house spirits, demons, and other astral beings? All of them, except for nature spirits. Will they also be banished, and what will happen then?
It's possible, but before they are banished, there will actually be, let's say, an intensification of contact. Since the boundaries are dissolving, many people will encounter the presence of spirits and entities. And here too, this experience will greatly depend on one's vibrational level. Those with a low vibrational level will encounter spirits of similarly low vibrations. These could be beings from other realities, so-called demons, or some parasitic entities, beings that like to attach themselves to people, or entities that feed on human energy at night. On the other hand, those with high vibrations will feel an intensification of contact with their soul, relatives, their angels, and guardians. If these souls themselves are from other realities, they will experience contact with their own kind. They will receive signs, and their relatives will come to them in dreams. Many people will feel contact with departed loved ones, both through dreams and even during waking hours. When the final separation occurs, of course, low vibrational beings will not be able to remain in this world, and the same goes for those from the subtle planes. They will leave as well. But before that, there will be another period.
How much time do we have left? Will we be able to feel this until 2030, or just a few more years until 2027? Will we still be able to talk with Kuzia in the kitchen?
Yes. So for the rest of this year and all of 2026, these phenomena will continue to intensify. I observe this constantly since I work with superhuman abilities. I see it with my own eyes. For example, in 2018, there was hardly anyone to talk to about these topics, and people who saw or felt something just seemed strange. In 2020, there were only a handful. When I started my school and led practices, almost no one felt anything during those sessions. But now, when I lead such a practice, out of 100 people, 80 can see what I'm doing, see the energy flows I'm working with, and feel them. I conduct a practice, and hundreds of thousands of people write about the visions they received, the symbols they saw. So this is definitely getting stronger. And since I'm involved in this field, a lot of my followers write to me about everything that's happening. Some people experience sleep paralysis, which they never had before. That's when, in a dream, it feels like someone is choking you and you can't wake up. This is exactly an encounter with dark, low vibrational spirits. Some people, on the contrary, constantly feel the presence of their departed loved ones. Some communicate with their spiritual lineage, even physically sensing their presence. This is something that is already really happening. I thought that by 2027, this would intensify at least twice as much.
First of all, you shouldn't be afraid of any of these things. If you start to get scared, this stuff only gets stronger. Definitely.
No matter how strong an entity is with a chair, it definitely can't kill you. Even if an entity is strong enough to move an object, at most it can shift it a little, and that's as far as it goes. An entity can mostly scare you. That's what they can do. These are, of course, low vibrational beings. And they do this in order to feed off the energy of fear. Just like people, low vibrational beings love to provoke fear. The same goes for Tankoplanova. It's the same thing. These are entities of roughly the same kind. You absolutely shouldn't be afraid. You need to understand what's happening. I also don't recommend making contact with such entities. On the contrary, I advise you to connect with your loved ones, good and bright souls with whom you have a good relationship, and turn to them for protection in such cases.
In short, if the entity could, it would have killed you long ago.
Yes.
If all this is intensifying and something can happen every day, maybe someone has already noticed that something strange is happening in the house or somewhere along the way to work. Are there any, ways to protect the house? Or maybe some kind of amulet, something that works, holy water, some salt?
Salt works to some extent. You can use it, you can sprinkle salt, you can wash the floors and corners of your home with salt water wherever something is happening. But honestly, I recommend something more reliable. Come to my marathon. On the very first day, I do a powerful cleansing practice against negativity, which will help much more than salt. I definitely recommend this.
The link is below this video. Who attracts entities? Who are entities most likely to hang around right now? Maybe they're already hanging around and will just become visible soon.
There are different kinds of entities. I also have an entity around me, but these entities, let's say, are positively inclined, of very high vibrations, and they're with me because they protect me, help me, empower me, and guide me. By the way, there are many ways to attract such entities, even through magical means. There are some very dark practices where a person is deliberately made into a victim, so to speak, and is given over to be devoured by some low-level entity, not the person themselves, of course, but their energy. In other words, some parasitic entity latches on and feeds off them. And unfortunately, I see this happening a lot. Even the closest people, those you would never suspect, can do such things and turn to these kinds of practices. There's a lot of this going on nowadays. It can even happen that a portal opens right in the house. I've already had people come to me with such situations where literally anything can come through from some parallel realities. And in those cases, of course, you need to work on it and simply close that portal. As for why it opened, there can be different reasons. Maybe the person themselves was doing some kind of practices without fully understanding, or maybe someone else did something in that space before them. There are, in general, bad places, unpleasant ones, where it's better not to go at all. For example, I can say that by nature I'm a very sensitive person when it comes to places, and there are places I try never to go to at all. These are old hospitals, old prisons, especially historical ones like a prison museum. I would never go there. Cemeteries, especially old ones, I also don't recommend visiting unless it's absolutely necessary. These are wastelands with little vegetation, as if the ground has been scorched. Most likely that's a dead place, like an energetic swamp. And finally, abandoned hospital buildings, especially psychiatric hospitals. I would never go there either. In places like that, so much grief, suffering, and negativity has accumulated. There are so many lost, trapped souls that it's really better not to go there. And if you do end up there, don't stay. Leave as quickly as possible.
And what happens to people who, in general, aren't ready to do anything, who don't even know there's some kind of transition? They just live their lives? Is that always a bad thing? And what consequences can there be?
These consequences are already noticeable. Many people, under the influence of new energy and solar flares, are experiencing a lot of physical pain that has no medical explanation and does not respond to medical treatment. What is this? This is what's called psychosomatics. If we imagine that in addition to our physical body, we also have an energy body, then in this energy body, especially for those who are on low vibrations, there are many, as I call them, blocks, these clumps of dark energy. And before, well, these clumps existed, let's say, and they just were, right? And for example, they had some traumas, some negativity, a bunch of resentments, hatred, they were dragging all that along. Now, what's happening in these new energies is that everything hidden is becoming revealed, and these clumps, these blocks are starting to be felt as physical pain. For those who, for example, have blocks in their head, they start experiencing migraines that no medication can help with. For those with a closed heart, they feel tightness in their chest. They start having arrhythmia, especially those who have a lot of aggression and hatred. They develop tachycardia, and nothing helps with that either. Those who, for example, have money blocks will experience lower back pain. Those who also have a lot of rage, that kind of anger in the body, will feel pain between their shoulder blades. Many people also have joint pain, and this will just keep getting worse and worse. There will be constant pain somewhere, then a bad mood, a sense of apathy, and with each passing day there will be less energy because they won't be able to connect with this new high vibration energy, and these blocks will intensify. That means there will be less energy, worse well-being, constant pain everywhere, an even worse mood, and accordingly it will become a vicious cycle. Everything hurts, the mood is bad, even more negativity, even lower vibrations, and so on and so forth, until the human body itself eventually triggers some kind of incurable and debilitating disease, and until the individual person, accordingly, ultimately reaches the critical point of significant transition.
But it seems like this has already been going on for some time, I don't know, as if this has been happening in many people's lives for a long time.
Yes, but it's just going to get even worse. Why is it that so many people don't take this seriously? Because it's not sudden. I mean, it could have been sudden. Let's say a meteorite falls, right? Then there's a tsunami, everyone gets swept away, a great flood, that's it. Something like that has already happened before. But this time it's happening slowly. It's like if you put a frog in a pot and heat it up gradually, it feels like nothing is happening, and then in the end it gets boiled. Because in reality something was happening. It was just happening slowly. And it seemed to her that everything was fine, like she was getting used to it, it seemed okay, not so bad, but in the end she didn't even notice how she got boiled.
On the second, will they take only the most reckless people, or?
Well, it's not that everyone will be taken on the second, it's just that on the second, the next stage will begin. It's like steps, you know. Another step will start and it will last for some time. It's not like on the second, all the reckless ones will just drop dead at once. For those discerning individuals who can truly feel, for those who can clearly perceive something profound beyond this fleeting illusion, such perceptive people will undoubtedly notice and comprehend what truly happens. You need to learn to be honest with yourself, because many people, for example, assess themselves inadequately. They consider themselves very good people simply because supposedly they don't do anything bad. Although, if you look closer, they also don't do anything good, neither for other people nor for themselves. They don't create anything. They don't use their potential. And we already know that we are now entering the era of artificial intelligence. And all the people who live and function, let's say, at the level of robots, at the level of mere function, such people will also be unnecessary in the new world, because everyone who, let's say, intellectually can't measure up to artificial intelligence will apparently not be needed, and also everyone who works without soul, without creativity, who just does things for the sake of doing them, this will no longer work in the new reality. And I think the best thing anyone can do is honestly ask themselves, am I satisfied with the way I live? Am I truly fulfilling my dreams? Every person had some dreams in childhood. I think no one ever wanted to work just as a function, just for the sake of it. Everyone had some childhood dream. Remember that, for example, and ask yourself, why am I not doing it? Because people get used to things, they fall into a certain routine. It's hard for them to break out of this routine, but now is the perfect time to remember why you came here and whether you have truly accomplished what you came for. In reality, there are only 3 main karmic blocks that prevent people from breaking free, truly raising their vibrations and realizing their potential. The first block is the survival block. Let's do a diagnostic. Everyone watching us, please note which of these applies to you. So, the first block is the survival block. If you constantly lack money, if you are always worried about money, if you have problems with real estate, if you always feel like there is not enough in the world, not enough resources, and there won't be enough for everyone, if you often have pain in your knees or lower back, if this sounds like you, then most likely you have a survival block. This block is formed in past lives. If in your past lives you were killed, especially if you were killed or robbed for money, or if you were killed by your relatives over an inheritance, or if you became a victim and were killed, for example, in war or by a violent death, you may have developed such a block. The next block is the power block. This is a very insidious block because it disguises itself as modesty. If you are the kind of person who, since childhood, has noticed certain abilities in yourself, especially extrasensory, magical, or perhaps healing abilities, but at the same time you are afraid to show them, afraid to talk about them, if you have a strong fear of crowds, a fear of public speaking, if you are afraid to stand up for yourself, or even to say, for example, that you deserve good pay, then most likely this is about you and you have a power block. A power block appears in those who, in a past life, were killed specifically because of their abilities, because they expressed their opinions. If they were executed, drowned, or burned, if they fell into the hands of the Inquisition, if their loved ones suffered or were killed because of their abilities, then such a block will hinder the realization of their inner potential. And the last block is what I call the closed heart block. Check for these signs to see if you have it. If you are lonely, if you feel that you are unworthy of love and that there isn't a single person with whom you could build a close relationship, if you are afraid to get close to people, to open up, if you fear honest conversations, if you often feel heaviness in your chest or tingling sensations or what is called intercostal neuralgia, and if you often find it hard to take a deep breath. If you feel that any person you open up to will inevitably betray you, then most likely in your past lives you were indeed betrayed, or your heart was broken, or you experienced emotional pain so intense that you promised yourself to close your heart forever and never again enter into a close relationship with anyone. So if this sounds like you, then write in the comments, "This is about me." And I'm not saying this for no reason, because today I'm going to give you a really great exercise where I'll work specifically with these 3 blocks.
Great. Shall we get started now? And let me remind you about the gift, the marathon, which is also linked below this video. So, shall we move on to the exercise?
Yes. Today I'm going to guide you through a practice. I promise to demonstrate the most powerful tool that exists, at least the most well-known one on this planet. I'm talking about the 7 rays. These 7 rays emanate from the highest spiritual planes. They possess truly incredible power, but we unfortunately don't have much time available today, so I'll carefully demonstrate 3 of them for you. So we will work with the vibrant red ray on the crucial survival block, and with the bright yellow ray on the important power block. And we'll work with the green ray on a closed heart. This won't be a very long practice, but nevertheless, if you can fully immerse yourself, you'll have an incredible sensation, experience, and of course, benefit. So tune in to me. Imagine that you are right here with me, standing in this very spacious and grand hall. I want you to gently get into a very comfortable and relaxed position, and we'll begin by softly focusing on your natural breath. As you slowly inhale, you'll deeply fill yourself with a warm, radiant light. And as you gently exhale, you'll consciously breathe out all the accumulated tension and any lingering stress. Imagine that I am creating a cloud of white light. The white light envelops you, wraps around your body. I am currently creating a protective shield so that absolutely no one will disturb you during this important practice session. Imagine that you are already completely surrounded by white light. As you inhale, you fill yourself with this light, and as you exhale, you breathe out all the tension. Take another deep, calming breath in. Slowly exhale all the accumulated tension from your body, and then take one more full, cleansing inhale and gently exhale completely. Imagine that directly above your head, about 10 precise centimeters above your crown, there is a beautiful, radiant crystal. A brilliant ray of shimmering crimson ruby light gracefully descends from this magnificent crystal, casting a warm glow. The vibrant crimson ruby light completely fills your entire physical body and also your subtle energy bodies. And in this crimson ruby light, we activate all survival blocks. The crimson ruby light transforms into a flame. The vibrant crimson ruby flame begins to gently dissolve and completely burn away all existing survival blocks. All money blocks, all abundance blocks. Imagine, feel how the crimson ruby flame flows through your body, destroying, burning away the blocks, cleansing, purifying you from within. The crimson ruby flame flows faster and faster, carrying away all the blocks, all the heaviness into the earth. Allow it to be released, to relinquish its hold, and from the vast expanse above, from the heavens themselves, a brand new, luminous ray of light begins its gentle descent. This radiant beam, strikingly vibrant and pure, is distinctly yellow in its hue, casting a warm and ethereal glow as it slowly makes its way downwards, illuminating everything in its path with its golden brilliance. The yellow light fills your entire body and subtle bodies. And in this warm, radiant yellow light, I will fully illuminate and clearly reveal all the hidden blocks and obstacles to your true power and potential. Everything connected to the profound fear of large crowds, the deep-seated fear of being truly seen, the pervasive fear of openly declaring your unique talents and inherent abilities, everything that profoundly blocks your innate courage and with significant pain. And now the yellow light transforms into yellow flame. The vibrant yellow flame gently concentrates within your solar plexus, a powerful energy center. The yellow flame burns away all the blocks to your power. It destroys, burns, and dissolves them. It destroys, burns, and dissolves them. It burns everything away completely, and the ashes are carried into the earth. This flame flows through your body and subtle bodies faster and faster, carrying all the remaining blocks into the earth. And now, from above, a new ray of emerald green light descends. This ray fills your body and subtle bodies. And in this profound and illuminating light, I now gently and lovingly reveal everything that deeply blocks, firmly constricts, and completely closes off your precious and vulnerable heart. And now, with a powerful and transformative shift, this very same light gracefully transforms and intensifies into a vibrant, living flame. The magnificent, shimmering emerald green flame, pulsating with immense power and purifying energy, now passionately rages and expands within the very core of your chest. It meticulously and thoroughly cleanses, purifies, and revitalizes the entire heart area, releasing all that no longer serves you and bringing forth a renewed sense of openness and peace. It destroys, burns, and dissolves all the blocks in your heart. It purifies, cleanses you from within. Let all the emotional pain accumulated over hundreds and thousands of your incarnations burn away completely. Everything where your heart was broken, everything where you experienced unbearable emotional pain. All of it burns away in the emerald green flame. And allow this sacred flame to gently descend into the very depths of the earth, carefully taking with it and completely dissolving all the lingering remnants of past pain and suffering. And now a stream of pure white crystal light descends from above. The white light permeates your body and subtle bodies, carrying all the heaviness down into the earth. It cleanses you, healing and harmonizing. And in just a few seconds, I will wake you up. You will wake up and feel wonderful, full of energy and strength, healed and renewed. So I will begin. I will count from 1 to 10. And on the count of 8, you will open your eyes. And on the count of 10, you will be fully awake. 1, 2, 3, we are waking up. 4, 5, 6, we are coming back. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, fully awake, fully awake. Every part of you returns to the here and now together with me. Please write what you felt and saw during this practice.
And right away we move on to the next practices on Matt's Afrafon, the gift one, which you can also find at the link below this video,